Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm your host, Maurice Jackson. Joining us again today is Jayant Bhandari, who is an advisor to institutional investors and the host of the highly acclaimed Capitalism and Morality. Jayant, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me again, Maurice.
Jayant, last week we conducted an interview where you conveyed to investors some startling events taking place in India regarding the currency restrictions enforced by the Prime Minister Modi. For listeners that missed last week's interview, Jayant, can you please share what unfolded?
Well, on the 8th of November 2016, Modi made an announcement that he was banning rupee 500 and rupee 1000 notes from the Indian currency system, which is equivalent to $7.50 and $15 respectively. And this is the most commonly used currency in banknotes, and they comprise of 88% of total money in circulation in the country. This has created a major cash crunch in the system. People are lining up outside bank branches to convert money they can convert. And the only money that they can convert is $2,000 maximum per person, which is equivalent to $30. And the government will not give them another chance, which means that they have to live on $2,000, which is 30 US dollars for 50 days per person. People are lining up, people are going hungry, people are dying, lining up in these outside bank branches, and people are dying in hospitals because they don't have money to pay. The crisis has been there particularly for the poor people who don't even have the banking system. They don't even have the option to convert any money into the new legal tender. It's a major crisis in my view. It's the worst decision Indian government has taken after English colonizing powers left India 67 years back.
Truly startling. And here's what's so startling about it, Jayant. 4 a.m. this morning, I checked for updates on CNN Money and Fox Business. I saw absolutely nothing regarding this. However, I did see that President-elect Trump sent a tweet out at 3 a.m., which made the mainstream media just feel warm and fuzzy. And yet we have events here unfolding that could have cascading global effects. Talk to us a little bit more about that, if you would.
Well, Maurice, one thing that Modi did do right for himself was that he coincided this event with US elections so that people would keep paying attention to the US elections, Hillary and Trump, rather than this mess that Modi was going to create in India. But what is happening in India right now is that it is showing people the massive risk they undertake when they keep their wealth in the complex monetary system set up by the governments, in this paper currency system, which by itself does not have any value, and the value comes from government regulations. And that is a massive risk you take. And what, Maurice, I completely forgot to tell you was that the accounts in India are mostly frozen today. So small businesses are failing because they can't take out cash to give to people. So it's a massive risk that now is in the system. And what is happening in India is telling the world what can happen elsewhere in the world.
Absolutely. And Jayant, if I'm not mistaken, half the citizens in India don't even have bank accounts, if I'm not mistaken, and 25% don't even have identifications.
That's absolutely correct. And these people are completely out of the system. Their currency notes are of no value. They can't even convert those at the banks. And these are the people who are suffering the most.
And what are they doing?
Oh, they are going hungry, they have no job, they are in a desperate situation. But remember, Maurice, as I said in the last interview earlier, the middle class and even the poor people do not in this country have a moral instinct. And this is a funny thing about all these countries. They do not have rationality, they are superstitious people, and they do not have a moral instinct. So the middle class sees these people as servants, maids, and chauffeurs and drivers, runner boys. They don't necessarily see these people as human beings, the poor people. As a result, is that when the poor people suffer, middle class does not see that as suffering of human beings. In a way, the caste system is very, very entrenched in the society.
I'm just shaking my head in disappointment. It's just so sad to hear that. That's just, it's mind boggling. Giant, in regards to cascading effects, what other countries are using the same currency as India?
Well, Nepal and Bhutan, two very small countries, might get slightly affected by what is happening in India, but India has no reputation in the world. They have historically not respected private property. It's mostly a socialist country, very inward looking country with people who are very inward looking. The result is that no one cares about India, and that is also one of the reasons why you don't really see much about India in the United States' media. They do pay lip service to India, but they don't really care. They don't really invest in this country. The cascading effect is not going to be much except in terms of learning that will take place among the international people, that what can go suddenly wrong with this fiat currency, the paper currency system.
Now, for U.S. investors, if you believe that this cannot occur in the United States, as a reminder, we are on our third currency. Although under different circumstances, we started with the continental dollar, then the greenback, and now we're on a Federal Reserve note known as the U.S. dollar. In these times, not only do investors, but the lay citizen, they awaken. But the problem here, as we're finding out in India, is that they're waking up too late. Giant, how much is an ounce of gold right now in India?
So, Maurice, depending on who you ask, it can be anything between 2,000 US dollar to 3,000 US dollar per ounce. Also, remember that most of the bullion market for the last 2 days is closed. And the reason is that, as I have implied so far, this is becoming a police state, and the bullion industry is extremely scared of who they are transacting with. And even the buyers are afraid because the tax authorities are standing outside watching you, what you are doing. So they are putting a tight lid on the bullion industry right now. There's a lot of fear in the market, and there is indeed a possibility that Indian government might ban buying of gold going forward at some point of time.
Well, it sounds familiar to some investors in the United States that are senior citizens. As we recall, President Roosevelt made it illegal for U.S. citizens to hold gold. So again, if you're not familiar with monetary history, it repeats itself, sometimes in different forms, but it does repeat itself. It seems, Giant, almost counterintuitive that gold right now, from a U.S. perspective, the price is declining. Does that signify anything to you?
Well, I mean, one part of the reason might be, Maurice, that the international traders might be recognizing that India is in the direction of putting a ban on gold imports. And if it does that, it will indeed hurt the demand of gold in India, and hence it will bring oversupply in the international market. Although I think that would be a wrong expectation, because the more Indian government restricts gold, the more people in this country, the more savers in this country will buy gold. So I'm not too worried about the demand for gold in this country, but I think the fall in the price of gold internationally is probably partly because of Trump coming in the US, and partly because India is expected to restrict demand for gold even more.
For investors, specifically those that are Western, this is one of these unique opportunities for you to take stewardship of precious metals and specifically gold. Jayant, how about silver? We don't hear silver too much, but is silver an investment option there in India?
Well, historically it has been, and it will always be, because for small savers, silver is the way to go. And that is when if you want to break your money into smaller parts, you want to keep silver. Silver is a big and very important commodity, precious metal in this country. So I would be very keen on both gold and silver in India.
Okay. Now, Jayant, how about this? We've seen 1 week unfold. The picture doesn't look too good. Where do you see a month from now or 2 months from now?
I'm not even looking a month from now. I think with every single passing day, the situation in India is going to get worse and much worse, because there's a currency crisis in this country. The government has restricted 88% of the currency from usage, and they are completely incapable of replacing it with a new currency. The replacement to new currency will take as much as 5-6 months or even longer, which means that whatever new supply of currency comes will go either under the mattress or go into the hands of people who are financially powerful, which also means that the poor people will not get hold of this currency. It will not trickle down to those people for the next 4 to 6 months. And Maurice, try if you can stay hungry for 3 to 6 months. This country is heading for a major crisis.
Again, I can only see cascading events from this. The future doesn't look bright. Jayant, again, thank you so much for being there firsthand and expressing what is really going on there. Before I leave, though, I'd like to ask, is there anything that I forgot to ask?
Not really, Maurice. We have covered a lot of things in our last talk and in this talk. Just to conclude, what is happening in India is that India is rapidly moving towards becoming a police state. The middle class in this country is extremely spineless. They do not have rationality. They do not have moral instincts. And they have failed to develop these things despite a massive amount of so-called education, because these people never understood the concept of reason and critical thinking. And this will now affect and lead this country into a horrible shape going forward. They have now elected a very right-wing, Hindu fanatic, dictatorial-minded person as their prime minister, and they will start facing consequences of that.
Jayant, thank you for conveying that to us. And Jayant, if an investor wanted to get more information, can you please share your website?
Yeah, my website is jayantbhandari.com. My name in continuation.com.
Jayant Bhandari, thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable.
Thank you very much, Maurice.
All the best to you, sir. Be safe.
I will be, Maurice. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable. Remember to like and subscribe for more conversations with the most respected names in the natural resource space. Check out our website at www.provenandprobable.com. The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only. without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.